We're live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you for joining me this evening, and thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, for help putting the show together. Jordan, let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell everyone what we're going to see on the show tonight. Starting line is, of course, brought to you by Motion Pro. And the next time, try this segment, I'm going to talk to you about sandpaper. The Moto Showcase has a 1977 YZ125 that was sent in. I'll show you that a little bit later on in the show. In the Here's the Problem segment, we're going to be talking about stud removal and a couple of other really interesting things. Looking forward to bringing you that. The Moto Showcase, the What's It Worth segment. We've got a 1974 Honda that was recently sold. Very original bike. I'm looking forward to bringing you that as well. Fritz Gunther has sent in another amazing video for the expansion chamber. You'll be seeing that. Something very, very unique, the garage tour segment. We had someone contact us saying that they had this Yamaha van. We're going to be taking a look at that. It'll be live. It'll be on the show in just a bit. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. There is a random share giveaway tonight. We'll be giving away a coffee mug just like this. We'll mail it to you. All you need to do is comment AMSOIL, whether you're on Facebook or you are on YouTube. Comment AMSOIL. Later on, we'll have a random share giveaway winner. And don't forget, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see all the shows that we've done here for Vintage Motocross Q&A and listen to all the interviews that we've done on Vintage Motocross Radio. So please subscribe. You'll get an alert just like that. You'll know when we're live on Facebook and on YouTube. And of course, you know now the professional way, the expert way to watch Vintage Motocross Q&A is on your big screen TV through YouTube. While you sit there comfortably on your couch with your phone in your hand, you can use your phone to comment, watch the show on the big screen in HD, and that's how the experts are doing it these days. I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Full Circle Racing, Preston Petty Products, Racerx, Northwest Mako CZ, and of course, AMSOIL. The Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. With over 650 products in their catalog, visit vinco.com. Today, I want to talk to you about sandpaper. Believe it or not, there's actually an organization that monitors the quality of sandpaper. It's called the Federation of European Producers of Abrasives. Why is that organization exist? It exists to keep the quality of sandpaper throughout the world the same. No difference than if you bought oil in another country or you bought it in America. You want to use or get the same quality each time you buy sandpaper. When you do that, you want to look for a P-rated sandpaper. P, like this. That means it is, of course, certified by that organization I mentioned earlier. What else do we need to know about sandpaper? It comes in different grits. I'm sure you're familiar with that. On most motorcycles, vintage motocross bikes, and things you're working on, you generally begin with a little rougher sandpaper to remove the paint. You'd start with a 180. Then you would go to a 240, then a 320. It's very important that you take it in steps and make sure you use one grade finer than the next. You don't want to skip from a 180 to a 320. You're going to leave fine sand scratches in your paint or in your prime or on bare metal that you're going to see when the paint gets applied. So there are 4 P's when it comes to a good paint job. Preparation, paper, prime, and patience. You want to make sure you get a good quality paper. That's the most important thing in that job. Without that paper, you can have all the patience in the world and you can have the greatest prime. But if you don't have good paper, you're not going to get a quality paint job in the end. I want to thank Vinco for being a sponsor of this segment. In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is sponsored by Preston Petty Products, we take a look at a 1977 Yamaha YZ125 that was sent in to us by Andrew Stayers. I'm going to read to you a little bit about the bike while Jordan goes through the slides. Joe, I have a bike entry for the show if you think it's worthy. It certainly is worthy, Andrew. This is a 77 YZ125 I bought from someone who started to repair it. The pictures are included in how it looked before. This is not a restoration, but a nice quality rebuild. Before I bought the engine, it had a top end done to it, but the cases needed to be split and repaired. It had an oil leak, and I did all that. I replaced the bearings. The lower mount of the bolt was pushing into the cases, causing a leak. It was good, and it needed to be stripped down because I found what it needed, and I did the bearing seals. The transmission had all worn components in it, and I replaced them all and gave it everything that it needed. I replaced the broken plastic with DC Plastics, and I used a seat foam from them as well as their seat cover. The DG head used to be for YZ100, and the chamber was machined to fit a 125, but was left with a slightly smaller volume for higher compression. The head is actually painted with a VHT gold flake engine enamel since there wasn't any issue with trying to have it anodized. Thank you for considering my bike for your show, Joe. I enjoy it very much. Well, thank you, Andrew Sayers, for sending it in. And for doing so, we're going to send you a nice gift, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Great bike, and you did a wonderful job on it. Preston Petty Products, one of our best sponsors. They've been with us a long time for number plates, lighting kits, fenders, plastic kits, grips, and more. Be sure to visit PrestonPettyProducts.com online, and you'll see them on Instagram as well. Thanks, Paul Stannard. And here's the problem segment tonight, which is sponsored by Motion Pro. We'll take a look at some of the questions that you've sent in the last week or so and shed some light on that. Jordan, what do we have up first? Bent Han, how do I get C spokes removed from the rim? I can't remove the nipples without breaking the spoke. Benk's question was actually a whole lot longer than this. There was a little bit of a language barrier, but I think we got it worked out. One of the first things I recommend that you do if you have a C spoke is try and get some penetrant on them, something like PB Blaster or Croil. Croil is an excellent way to do it. What you can do is put it in a little pan, just have 3 or 4 spokes sitting there and see how it works. You want to add some heat to that as well with a little MAP gas. But just as important is having a quality spoke wrench to try and get these spokes off. A lot of times people will use a wrench that's close, or they try and do it with an adjustable wrench or something like that. You need a nice, thick, quality spoke wrench. Those are available from Motion Pro. I want to give you another tip here too. What happens is when you go to twist out that nipple from that spoke, the spoke snaps, okay? What you need to do is grab the spoke like this with a pair of vice grips or channel locks. Keep a piece of aluminum, 2 little pieces of aluminum like this when you grab the spoke so you don't damage the plating on the spoke. Then when you go to twist off that nipple, the spoke won't twist and won't break. You'll be able to hold it securely while you're removing that nipple, and hold it securely with this vice grip like this with the aluminum pieces on it, so it doesn't spin and twist and possibly break the spoke. Bink, I want to thank you for the question. I hope that helps you and maybe some other people who are having the same problem. What's up next, Jordan? Dan Schmidt, I need to remove 4-cylinder studs, and I'm concerned about them snapping off. What are some precautions I should take to prevent that? Number one, much like the spoke segment we were just talking about a moment ago, you want to use heat. You can use MAP gas, and you want to get that stud nice and hot, get the cylinder nice and warm so that aluminum expands from around the steel, and you can get it loose. Now, there's a couple of different things going on here. In the one picture, you can see a shorter stud. And in that case, you're going to use a stud extraction tool that looks like this. You'll be able to get a ratchet on top of it, and once it's heated up, you'll be able to get it off. Not always can you save the thread. You might damage the thread with this. It depends on how high up that stud the thread is. You might damage the thread a little bit. You might have to replace it. The chances of you replacing it are probably very good anyway. That's probably why you want to take them out. Now, in the picture on the bottom, you'll see a stud that's a little bit longer. And on some bikes, you'll have that. After you take off the cylinder, that stud will still be sticking out there. What you want to use is the same type of a stud extractor, just like this. But these stud extractors come with a 22 millimeter nut on top of them. Or it's actually, well, it is on the top. But when you're not using the ratchet, you can use a wrench. So take this, put it all the way down as close as you can to the bottom of the stud, and then take it off with a wrench. Don't do it from the top trying to use a ratchet. You're going to have the same problem that I was talking about just a moment ago with the spoke, where it's going to have just too much flex in it, too much twist, and you're going to really run the risk of snapping it off. So put this all the way down the stud, get your wrench on it, and you can remove it that way. Don't forget the heat. Very, very important. If you do want to use Croil or some type of PB blaster or penetrant on that stud before you take it out, let it sit for a day. That's probably not a bad idea either, Dan. Thanks for the question. Nick Mamola, can I use sealant to stop the oil from leaking out of around my exhaust pipe at the head? Yes, although you didn't tell me exactly what kind of bike you have, you can do it. But there's a couple of things I want to mention first. Number one, on your pipe, I don't know if maybe you have like an older Yamaha MX model where that flange is actually put on the pipe, and then the pipe is flared at the end. There's an O-shaped gasket that sits inside the cylinder, and they're usually made of copper. And when you put that flange on there with the pipe, it kind of crushes it and makes it all nice and tight. That's really not an optimum situation for you to use a high temp silicone gasket maker like this stuff here. You should really look and see if you are actually missing a gasket first. But if you're not, and you have something like I have in the picture there, or here in my hand, a flange like this, yes, you can use this stuff. The most important thing is to remember that more is not necessarily better. You want to put a thin coating on there. Chances are that a copper gasket came on there to begin with, or some type of fiber gasket. So you don't want to use too much of that silicone gasket stuff on there. Just put a coating on it and follow the instructions. Don't put it on too thick. If it takes a little time to cure before you put it on, do that. If it says to let it cure overnight, hopefully you have enough time before you're going to ride the bike to do that. Another major important thing is make sure that the cylinder and the flange are free of any grease, oil, grime, anything that's been coming out of that exhaust. You want to make sure that's all cleaned off before you use a high temp sealant like this. Yes, it can be done, but look and see, you might need a gasket. This would be good in a temporary situation. Also, something else to look for is the springs. You have springs that go from your pipe and sometimes attach to the flange itself, or sometimes there's a hole in the cylinder, in the fin. You want to make sure that those springs are in good condition too. Maybe they're not being pulled tight enough. So when you're out there looking for that gasket, or you're buying that, you might want to replace those springs as well. Thanks for the question, Nick. We're going to take a commercial break right here for just a moment. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. You're on YouTube. Don't forget to comment AMSOIL. Up next, a very special garage tour. We're going to be live. We'll be right back after this message.
Hello everyone, Brandon here with Motion Pro, bringing you the Trick New Pro Plug sockets from Motion Pro. The Pro Plug sockets are a very clever design. They're heavy tool steel construction for durability. They feature a slim skeleton design for hard to reach heads and cylinders, and they feature a really innovative retention system. This retention system is mechanical and it's not a rubber grommet. So you're never going to battle between the spark plug and the socket. So the socket is always going to be easy and firm to attach to the spark plug, but also it's going to be easy to remove. So you're not going to have to go fishing in those deep well heads to get that socket out. Now the socket features a couple of different drive components. You can use a 17 mil open end wrench, a 3/8 drive socket, as well as a through axle, right? So you've got a couple of different ways you can use this product. Now we have these available in 3 different sizes, and those 3 different sizes are 16, 18, and 21, available to fit most model motorcycles, V-twin as well as metric. Retail starts at $21.99 up to $22.99, available from your favorite retailer nationwide.
We are back and we are ready for the garage tour. Jordan? Can you hear me? Oh, now he should be able to hear me. Steve?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, I do.
Good. Hey, Steve, where are we speaking to you from? Where do you live?
Happy Valley, Oregon.
Happy Valley, Oregon. Well, Steve Miles has a very, very special truck here with him tonight, and it's the Yamaha, which is a 1973 B100 Dodge. Steve, tell me this: is this the Steve, is this the original Yamaha that we saw in magazines when we were kids?
It's not the original one, no. I created my own.
Okay. When did you buy the truck, and how long did it take you to refinish it?
We got it in 2013 for $500 and had it done by February of 14.
Okay. Now, did you do the paint and the graphic work on this truck?
Yeah, our company did it. We store classic muscle cars and motorcycles.
Okay.
And stuff.
Tell me this, Steve. What did the truck look like before it looks the way it looks today? Because it really looks great. Do you have any pictures of it before and what it looked like?
Yeah. You want to see
Let's
it?
let's take a look over there and see what you have. That's a pretty amazing shop you've got there too, Steve. Okay. Steve's daughter Ashley is doing the wonderful job at the camera work tonight too. So here's a picture of the van, and you paid $500 for it.
Yeah. See the shag where the window crank mowed the shag down?
Yes. How were you looking for this van, Steve, or did it just pop up?
It found me.
It found you. How far away from home?
Probably 30 miles.
Okay. And we can see all the body work you've done on it there and the graphics and all the custom cabinetry that you've made for this amazing vehicle. Let's get back over to the truck. I want to ask you a few more questions about it before we continue. Let's go around back first, Steve, and take a look inside and see what you've done there. Now, I see some custom cabinets. Steve, did you build these for this truck?
Yes, a retired customer of ours. He does restoration work on homes and stuff, but not many people like doing this to a van because it's not very easy. So
right.
He helped out a lot, but I set up the ergonomics and how I wanted the bikes to be staggered a little so you could fit 2 bikes in here and use all the room we can.
I see. Can you open up one of the cabinets? Can we get a look inside there?
Yeah, there's one.
Okay.
Here. And then this is another one. And 5-gallon gas can fits in here, and I pull a trailer too sometimes, but I can haul 2 bikes and when I race in this also.
Steve, give us a little background on the original Yamaha. Was that built by a race team, or was it in a magazine? I don't quite remember. Tell us about that.
Yeah, here's a picture of the ad. It was a grand prize. It's a 7-prize giveaway van. Mm-hmm. And it was finished in late 72, but it was $12,000 value prize back then. And the van was people sponsored and did the wheels and paint and did the interior, and they actually had a retractable sunroof that they put in, which would have been very expensive to do back then, like a new car retracts into the roof.
Sure. I mean, $12,000 in 1972, that was a lot of scratch. And
Yeah.
another thing that caught my eye was the wheels. They look very similar to the one that was on the original van. Tell me about the wheels and where you found them.
Yeah, these are the 10-spoke Vector Dukes of Hazzard wheels that's on the General Lee Charger.
Okay.
And originally it had slotted mags, but these mags have slots, and the turbine matches the graphics better. They happened to find me before the slots did.
Okay. I see you got a little moto bike there too from Yamaha. We can't get into that right now because I want to continue on with the van. So how about you hop inside that side door and show me some of the other custom details of this truck.
Yeah. So this is where the bikes, these are 3-sided box, and you can turn them upside down over there. I put my gear bag and all kinds of stuff when I go to the races. These flip down.
So
anchors here, the tie downs that tie it down. Then you can, when your bike's unloaded, you can sit in there on those when you're changing, putting your riding gear on.
and you can get 2 full-size dirt bikes in there.
Yep, and more than that. Not
Really?
There's so much stuff you get really. If you only knew what I can pack in here, just so if that makes sense.
Now, what size engine is in that truck, Steve?
It's a 360 V8.
What did it come with originally?
A 360 V8.
Okay, and how many miles are on it since the rebuild?
Probably 10,000. It's still I think it's 107,000 original miles on the truck.
Okay. Now, I asked you a little bit earlier about the graphics and the paint. Who was responsible for that work?
Well, my wife did the graphics, and we kind of upgraded the graphics so they would have just been black, and the yellow would show through, but we put white. We kind of changed them a little bit and just put our own spin on it, you might say.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you for taking the time to walk through your amazing garage, which we could have a show on that someday. I definitely would want to have you back and take a look at that amazing shop you have there. So I want to thank you, Steve Miles, for showing us the Yamaha tonight. And I want to thank your daughter, Ashley, too, who's done a great job with the camera work there. Steve Miles and his 73 B100 Dodge Yamaha. Thank you, Steve.
See you, Joe. Thank you.
You're welcome. Really interesting. Steve Miles, thanks again. What's it worth? In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we take a look at a 1974 Honda CR250 that was recently sold on eBay. And I would like to know what you think this bike sold for. I'll give you a couple of brief details before you put your guess into the comment box. This bike was 100% original, and anything that was on it that was replaced with new old stock parts. So that being considered, I'll read to you a little bit more about this bike. It's a 74 Honda CR250. It's nearly 100% original condition. I originally had plans to restore this bike, but decided that the condition and originality were too good, and I decided to sell it to someone who would enjoy it. There has been no restoration of the parts on this bike other than a little bit of a thorough cleaning and some minor polishing wherever warranted. There were very few selected items that were replaced with genuine Honda NOS parts. Those included hand grips and a few pan screws and a missing bolt. Everything else is as it came originally from the factory. I even have the OEM air filter, although it's fragile and it's not usable. Even the front number plate is original on this bike, and you can see the condition of it is absolutely spectacular for a bike that's this old. Now, this bike was sold by a friend of mine, a Facebook friend, and a guy I know personally too, Scott Piddington. It was sold on eBay. Does anyone care to put in their last-minute guess on how much this bike sold for? Drum roll, please. The bike was sold for $4,995. $4,995. I thought that was a great deal. It's an original bike. I don't believe it should be restored. I don't know if the tires are original on it. I don't think the rear one is. The front one may be. I don't know. But the bike is in exceptional condition, and it sold for $4,995. before Scott sold that bike, he posted it on the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. There was a discussion about it, and many people were in agreement that the bike was worth somewhere no less than certainly $5,000. So if you're looking to buy a bike or sell a bike and you want to discuss the value of it before you put it out there on eBay or any of the Facebook pages, please become a member of the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. Post some pictures of your bike there with the details, and you'll get some very friendly and respectful advice on the value of that bike. The expansion chamber is, of course, tonight brought to you by Full Circle Racing Limited. We'll tell you a little bit more about Full Circle Racing in just a little while. Fritz Gunther has sent in, wait till you see this video. He's just a fountain of information, Fritz Gunther. I've got the tape right here. I'm going to pop it in, and we're going to see what Fritz has to tell us this week.
Okay, here we've got a little parkerizing setup going. It's the manganese phosphate solution in there, 4-to-1 with water, heated up to about 190 degrees. And here we've got a steel washer. It's been cleaned and degreased. It's on a stainless steel wire. And we're just going to dip that into the solution for about 10 minutes. Back soon. And here's what the parkerized washer looks like installed. It's under the steering stem nut. We're tightening the nut up. You can see some of the black came off. But anyway, it's another option for finishing parts. Works good on engine mount bushings that go into the aluminum cases. Anything steel that you want to protect from rust and corrosion.
Parkerizing from Fritz Gunther. He's a machinist. He's a mechanic. He's a scientist. He does it all. Fritz, I want to thank you so much for sending in another great video this week, and it's called Parkerizing. If I understand, it works on old guns and anything that you want to keep rust-free, but you don't want to have plated with either zinc or anything like that. Parkerizing. Great job, Fritz Gunther. What's up next, Jordan? Oh, Full Circle Racing. Wonderful sponsor of the show. Tom McAllister does a great job with the spokes, with the lacing and the trilling for both vintage and modern. And of course, he offers another service, powder coating for your hubs. He'll clean them, disassemble them, blast them, mask them, and powder coat them for just $50 a hub. For $10 more, he'll do the backing plate as well. This is for either gloss or flat black or semi-gloss. And if you want it in a custom color for just $20 more, a one-time charge, Tom will be happy to do that for you. So visit Full Circle Racing Limited on Facebook, and they're on Instagram as well. They're a wonderful sponsor of the show. And as I said, whether it's vintage or modern, lacing, truing, spokes, nipples, Tom is a wonderful guy. And I've got several sets of rims done here from him, and other people are using them a lot these days too. So give Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing a try next time you need some rims or spokes for your bike. In the product spotlight tonight, which is brought to you by Northwest Mako CZ. See Alan Brown for all your Mako and CZ parts. But you know what I love about Alan Brown and Northwest Mako CZ? He's got a couple of other things going on there, and they're not just CZ and Mako related. He's got these foot pegs for 73 through 77 Honda CR 125 and 250 Elsinores, and they fit all the 77 through 82 Yamaha YZs from the 125 up into the 400 series. It's just a nice wide steel peg with a beautiful serrated edge on there, much wider, much safer, much more comfortable than the stock pegs that came on that bike. They're just $109.95 available from Northwest Mako CZ. Tell Alan Brown you saw it here on the show. You'll get free shipping. Thanks, Alan Brown and Northwest Mako CZ. We're going to take another commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on YouTube or you are on Facebook. Tonight's winner will be coming back. The AMSOIL giveaway will happen, and one of the prizes is going to be a nice coffee mug just like this from Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Tonight's random share giveaway for the AMSOIL random share giveaway is Edward Tucker. Ed Tucker. Be sure to contact us. Send us a message through the inbox or contact Susie through her inbox. One way or the other, Edward Tucker is the random share giveaway tonight on the show. So get in touch with us, Ed. We'll get you a gift, compliments of AMSOIL and Vintage Motocross Q&A. This Week in Motocross History is sponsored by Racerx, a wonderful magazine. You can get them online or get a subscription mailed to your home. Racerx, just about the best motocross publication on your newsstands now. This week in 1979, Team Yamaha's Mike Bell won the first night of the Seattle Supercross doubleheader at the Kingdome. Suzuki's Danny Laporte and Honda's Warren Reed finished second and third, career best for each in the AMA Supercross. Defending series champion Bob Hanna finished fourth, but was about to begin asserting himself on the way to a third straight championship that year. 1 year later, Bell would again win the first night at the Seattle Supercross, which was actually the opening round of 1980. But this time, Hanna wouldn't be lurking in the wings. The Hurricane is out with a broken leg, and he will not be able to defend the title or even race until very well into the next calendar year, as he did break his leg on a water skiing accident in Lake Havasu. Let's move on to 1985. Ron Lechien rounded out his weekend sweep at the Seattle Kingdome Supercross, adding a second win in his many nights. Brock Glover was second ahead of Lechien and Honda teammates Johnny O'Mara and Bob Hanna. Excuse me, just a second. Oh, I apologize for that. And that's it in 1985. Ron Lechien goes 2 for 2 in Seattle. We do have some announcements, but first thing I want to talk about is my radio guest last week was Kurt Leverton from Vinco. You've heard that name here many times before. Jordan has a couple of sound bites put together. We'll take a listen to what Kurt had to say.
You founded several successful companies over the years, and your theory always was to think like a customer. What was the first part that you made and got out there on the market? You say your wife really prompted you to do that. What was the first product it came out with?
It was connecting rods. It was completely related to an OSA. OSAs are famous for having poor connecting rods. In their flat track bikes, you might get 45 minutes out of an OSA connecting rod. And there was a Yamaha YA6 connecting rod a conversion that you could install in an OSA that was very reliable. And that was the impetus. She said, "Well, come up with something." And I thought, well, let's see about finding this connecting rod. And we did. And I got some of them, brought them here to the United States, sold them. I brought 50 of them in. I sold all of them just immediately. And then I bought another 100, brought them in, sold them immediately. And then I took that money and we built a Bultaco rod, a Bultaco 250. And I called great guy, Hugh Weaver at Hughes Bultaco.
Sure.
And I said, "Hey, I got some Bultaco connecting rods." He goes, "I'll take them all." And after that, I said to my wife, I go, "We might be on to something here." Something that I do want to touch on is that, and that's about investing in vintage dirt bikes right now.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I do think that, with what's going on, probably with the new regime change, that having money put in assets, tangible assets, cars, motorcycles, paintings, even some real estate, I think those are good places to put your money right now. And I watch the car auctions pretty closely. The market's starting to move up again, and I can assure you that whatever the car market does, the motorcycle market always follows afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I hear people complaining about the costs of vintage dirt bikes and how expensive they are. Well, I think if you're interested in getting one, you better do it now, because I think you're going to be in for a shock where they're going to go here in a couple years from now.
Kurt Leverton with some predictions on the values of bikes, and also a fascinating story on how Vinco began and all the other companies he was involved with as well. If you get a moment, go over to Vintage Motocross Radio and listen to my interview with Curtis Leverton. This weekend's guest is still to be announced. Stay tuned for the announcement on that. You'll find it here on Vintage Motocross Q&A tomorrow or on Vintage Motocross Radio. But in 2 weeks, I have a very, very special guest. I've been wanting to speak to him for a while. You're all familiar with Bill's Pipes. Bill Severa will be my guest on February 21st. He's got some great stories. I was on the phone with him as late as this afternoon, and he was telling me about how he had some friends when they were much younger and just starting out. And those two friends were Troy Lee and Mitch Payton. Yep, they go way, way back before building pipes and doing paint jobs on helmets and things like that. So we'll be talking to Bill Severa in 2 weeks, and he'll have some great stories for us, I'm sure. What do we have up next, Jordan? Oh, Vintage Motocross Radio is now available on like 8 different ways through a podcast. So whether it's Spotify, Apple, Breaker, Castbox, Google Podcasts, all of them, all the ones that you see listed here on that slide, you can listen at any time. You don't have to be signed on to Facebook or YouTube to do that, because now we are on your favorite podcast. So be sure to listen through there. Dale Wachsler. If you're not familiar with Dale Wachsler, he had a great reality show on television. It was called What's in the Barn. Sadly, on the February 4th, Dale Wachsler had passed away. He was an AMA lifetime member. He was a member, of course, of the AMA Hall of Fame. And he died at his home after a long illness, almost 3 years. Dale was an entrepreneur as a teenager. He had a life passion for motorcycles, and he bought and sold Harley parts throughout his high school career. He saved his money, and eventually he became the youngest Harley-Davidson dealer in America in Mount Vernon, Illinois, at just 22 years old. The museum that he had, Wheels of Time, was very, very popular, and it earned him some appearances in some other popular reality shows on television, including American Restoration, Chasing Classic Cars, and American Pickers. And eventually it turned into his own show, What's in the Barn. So sadly, he passed away just last week on February 4th. We send our prayers and condolences to his family, and I know he had many, many friends. Dale Wachsler. Tuesday, March 9th, you get to ride on one of the most famous raceways in the world, Daytona, and you get to do it on your vintage bike on the infield after the Supercross that weekend. There's over 34 classes available. I know a lot of people are going down there with their vintage and classic bikes. They're going to ride on a nice little tamed down track on the infield where the Supercross will be on Saturday. That's Tuesday, March 9th. It'll be here before you know it. In fact, it's exactly a month away. So if you plan on going to Florida and taking your vintage scooter down there with you, you might want to get over to Daytona and get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's got to be on some of your bucket lists, huh? Carolina's White Lightning Nationals. It's across country. It's a motocross trials that happens March 12th through 14th. That's at Silverhawk Plantation in Buffalo, South Carolina. Motion Pro is a sponsor. It is an AHRMA event. A lot of different classes, I'm sure, that whole weekend, being they have all the different disciplines there, cross-country, motocross, and trials. Look them up. White Lightning in the Carolinas. Who's ready to scramble? Ralph and Tammy Greenhill, they're ready to scramble, and they've got another race coming up at Glen Helen. There is, that comes up on the 28th, Sunday, February 28th. It is on the truck track, so if you have a vintage bike and you were concerned about that big hill and all the other things that Glen Helen is famous for, you don't have to worry about that at all. Kids always ride for free, compliments of Rod Lake Racing. That is on February 28th, Sunday. Tammy and Ralph Greenhill, for years, doing so much to promote vintage motocross down in Southern California. The MX Estates 7th annual race is going to be happening February 20th and 21st. That is on Shady Brook Golf Club in Sumterville, Florida. So you go online and check that out if you're going to be down in Florida. Anytime between February 20th and 21st, there's some vintage motocross action happening down there. A bunch of different classes, and I've heard about this race before. They put on a nice event. Check them out online. American Retrocross, Sunday, February 21st at Glen Helen. This is the second round of several rounds that they have down there. I know they offer a lot of different classes from vintage, post-vintage. I believe they have a modern class as well. American Retrocross, another great vintage event coming up. Hoodies and t-shirts. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts are still available for just $19.99. Now we offer hoodies as well. They're available in gray and in white. Follow the link in the show description. If you want to order a shirt, it'll be delivered right to your door. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. Drop me a note in an inbox or contact me any way you can. I'll let you know about a sponsorship proposal package we'll send you over, and you'll be seeing some of the benefits that all of our sponsors here are seeing. We reach quite a few people every month. As you've heard me say, over 100,000 people in November, usually on average about 22,000 people a week. A lot of people share the show, and it's available on YouTube. So if you want to be a sponsor of the show, it's not as expensive as you think, and you'll get some really great exposure for your small business that you're presently posting on Facebook. Get a hold of me. I'd love to talk to you about it. Well, that about wraps it up for tonight's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to thank you all for joining me. I want to thank Steve Miles for that wonderful garage tour he gave us with that incredible Yamaha hauler van. Jordan, Chelsea, Susie, everyone that helps put the show together, thank you. And thank you, the viewers at home, for sharing the show and joining me every week. Don't forget to join me this Sunday. I'll let you know who the radio guest is in the next day or so. But in 2 weeks, Bill Cervera of Bill's Pipes, very interesting man with a long history in the sport. He'll be my guest on February 21st on Vintage Motocross Radio. Good night for now. Gino? Gino?